Boom. All right, so we should be live. Central Florida, welcome to another episode of the Central Florida Connects podcast. I'm James Turner, your local realtor, and I'm joined with Dawn Sipley with Sipley the Best. That's a nice name, how it kind of flows into the title. I like that. Did you come up with that by yourself, or who was the mastermind on that?
Actually, Facebook came up with it, and I am not the first Sipley the Best. My husband's company, which is a plumbing company, was actually the original Sipley the Best Plumbing. And then I did this, and one day there'll be a Sipley the Best Holdings and Enterprises, and
you're gonna have a whole umbrella of things. Okay, very exciting. Yeah. Very, very cool. I like that. So we like to start off the show with a little, I go to a random question generator, just funny little questions. And so I have it give me 5 and I pick what I think is the best 3. So, all right. So first thing, what was something you thought would be a great idea, but was terrible when you actually did it?
Oh gosh. Resume rewriting I thought would be a lot easier than it actually is, and like an easy way of income. But I find that since it's not relationship based and it's more on the technical side, and everybody has an opinion about language and how that is, it's way more challenging than I thought that it is going to be. So that is one thing that I thought would be easy money, but it was not. It drives me nuts. I'm very good at it, but it's not what I'm called to do.
I always hated putting together a resume. I was not good at it.
I didn't even write my own resume. I'm a steward of my own practice, because you're too intimate with your own qualifications and details, and it all gets jumbled up. So I actually hired a copywriter to do mine.
See, I'm more of just get me in front of them, let me talk, and I'll win them over that way versus, paper stuff. But we'll get into that. All right. And so what is your plan for surviving a zombie apocalypse?
Oh, well, I'm a 2nd degree brown belt and in Krav Maga, CCW carrier, avid outdoorsman. Everyone jokes that they're coming to my house if there is this zombie
got to be safe.
Or the government turns on us. So I feel pretty comfortable with my odds.
Yeah, I had a feeling you're gonna say that. I was like, yeah, I think she's gonna be okay. But I thought I would throw it in there. And then lastly, what's your good luck charm?
Jesus.
There you go.
Yeah.
You can never go wrong with that.
I might upset some Christians by saying that. It's not good luck. It's just I feel favored by him and privileged to serve him every day. So I think that's what lends to my success and some of my luck.
There you go. All right. Well, you passed the 3-question test, so that means we get to keep going. All right. So tell us a little bit about your company, a little bit about yourself, what areas you kind of focus on for the people to know. Also, all of her social media links will be down in the description once this is over. So you don't have to worry about trying to write anything down. Just go down into the description and you can click on the links, follow her, and leave. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment and what you think about the show and any thoughts you have on this episode. So take it away.
Yeah. So Sipley the Best was, the idea was born when I was still in the staffing industry. I've been in HR for almost 20 years now, and 12 of those were specifically spent in staffing. I had ownership in 2 different companies. But what I really realized was my heart was for the small business owner, but that wasn't really where the money was. And so my business partner would often get frustrated that I wasn't going after enterprise business, the big kahunas, even though I had landed the largest account that he had ever seen in his 50 years in the staffing industry. It wasn't my everyday. It really wasn't my passion. But at the same time, small businesses couldn't afford staffing. You end up paying 20 to 30% of the annual salary of the new hire, and that's a big old chunk of change, $7,000, $10,000, $20,000 just for one hire. So I had dreamed of a model that was a retainer model where small businesses would pay a flat monthly fee for hyper local, boots on the ground, HR director level recruitment assistants. And that's what I created at Sipley the Best. So you just pay a flat monthly fee. We're able to help with either recruitment, onboarding, firing, employee handbooks. We have a full suite of business, but of course, with my staffing background, most people tap into my ability to attract, recruit, and onboard amazing talent that really matches the culture of their organization.
I think that's so awesome because how you said you're going after this small business and not the big fish. So my biggest goal with Central Florida Connects is big companies cannot advertise on our platform. So, for example, if you're like, I have a friend who's a lawyer, you know, she's got a small little practice, you know, in Altamont. Shout out Galati Law. But she would be able to advertise. But the big
Right.
ones you hear on the radio, which I'm not even going to mention, they couldn't.
Right.
So I want to create a platform because when they try to advertise on Facebook, they're competing with all these people that you hear on the TV and the radio and that type of thing.
Yeah.
And they have the budget that the little guys can't compete with. So I'm flipping the script and saying, well, you don't, you know, one, we have a lot of free things that we do, so they don't even need a budget, but those big guys can't even compete with you. And eventually I'm hoping that this platform gets big, that they're knocking on my door and it's going to be like, sorry. You know, now the one thing I'm trying to gauge is, what do you consider a small business? Is it a million? Because, and then what type of business? Like $1 million for one industry would be amazing, but $1 million for another one is still a small business. So I'm still trying to tailor it to that, but definitely the focus is going to be that small business. So I think it's awesome that you're going after that little niche. You know, and everyone thinks it's weird. Like, why would you want to start a marketing platform and not go where the money is? And it's like, because
not your why, though.
Literally trying to be like everybody
in your
else.
purpose.
Yeah, like why not go for the people that, you know, why not go for this niche market, like you said? So I think that's great. And so you've been in HR, you said, like your whole life, right?
Yes, yeah, really. It truly, that's the way my career path ended up. I was a real estate agent in college. It was the perfect college job. It was 05, 06, 07, where we were just cashing checks. But I looked around and noticed that there was a lot of super strange stuff going on. I was just in my 20s and I started asking questions and people were telling me to shut up and sit down. And I was like, oh, okay. And fortunately, my mom passed when I was 23, which gave me custody of one pissed off 16-year-old sister. And that kind of changed my life and trajectory. I had to go get a job in retail. And that's when I discovered I was a heck of a recruiter. And that was really the launch of my career at that point.
I was a retail manager and worked retail pretty much since I was 16.
Good. It's
I
a
remember
healthy
I
thing
took a
to
job
do.
at PetSmart because they paid 10 cents higher than Winn-Dixie. And they had this like incentive program where you could learn about dogs and cats. And if you passed the quiz, you got like a 25-cent raise and this raise. And when you're 16, you know,
That's big money.
you're like, oh, you start calculating, well, if I become an expert in everything, I can make $1 more than Winn-Dixie an hour. Yeah, sign me up for everything. And so I've always been in I did that, and then I worked retail in malls, was in a big major jewelry chain, was there for almost 13 years. So I've definitely been on the retail side.
Yeah.
But what's funny is I've never been a big fan of the HR side, mainly because a lot of times my personality doesn't always match with the HR retail model.
Neither does mine.
Yeah, and so sometimes my verbiage may not be HR,
Right.
or my jokes may not be
Tailored,
HR friendly.
appropriate.
And so I've met a lot of HR people, but not in the good way. So so
Understood.
but I can only think about like in the office, the HR guy,
Yes.
like that. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are the kind of HR people that I always had. And
And
it's like,
that's what was in that industry, and that's one big reason that I kind of got out as well. I've been jokingly told that I'll preach on a bar stool and cuss at church. So I'm pretty transparent with the way that I communicate. And so I think a lot of people have enjoyed that out of me as an HR expert, because HR seems to keep this veil of, well, we can't let the people know why we're making the decisions that we're making and things like that. And I've always just been a really big proponent of transparency and honest communication. Because when you know where all the stakeholders stand and the vision behind it, you can really kind of get on board and support that. So I share the same sentiment, honestly, and that's one reason. The high turnover was the real driver on why I got out of the retail industry, because I really didn't feel like I had long-term things to offer. Not that you can't make a career out of retail, but the vast majority really stop at that store manager level and never go up from there.
And it's hard to get to that store manager level because a lot of times they want to bring someone from the outside,
Yeah.
not someone who's worked their way up. And I've hit
Yeah.
that ceiling many times where, you know, I was the best assistant manager. I mean, I was top of the district, but you want to get to that one spot and they
Yeah.
want to bring in somebody new and then they want you to train them.
Right.
And it's like,
right.
how does this, you know, but I definitely don't miss the retail hours. That's one thing that, and going through
I'm
this
not a
whole,
night owl, so I suffered greatly.
yeah, yeah, I was always the guy that closed the mall at 9, didn't get out till 10. Dinner was 10:30, 11, you know, and weekends, find me at the
Good.
mall. Like that's,
Holidays.
yeah. So it's, yeah, holidays. Oh my goodness. And I can't even imagine, like, with everything that happened this last 2 years and half of everything being shut down. And yeah, I'm so glad I got out of it years ago. And oh my goodness, they couldn't pay me to go back to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then, so you transition to staffing. So what's the typical, like, company approaches you and says, okay, I need to fill XYZ? And what's that process like? Like, how does a company work with you and do that?
hmm So first we kind of sit down and have a discovery conversation to see what kind of problems that they're having. Because I am very careful on what types of companies I align myself with. If they have a toxic culture and a bad environment, heavy turnover, and they don't know it, they don't see it, and they're not hiring me to fix it, I can't align myself with them, because my reputation as an HR consultant that really brings quality candidates and quality employers, I'm not going to put people in an environment that's going to chew them up and spit them out. So
Mm,
unless they're coming to me to solve those problems, then I'll politely refer them to a staffing company, because I am not a staffing company. I'm an HR consultant. We're going to walk that path with you, alongside of you. Staffing companies, they'll burn and churn you all day long. They'll take your money and just send you one right as the other one falls out. They drag the body across the floor out the back door, and you got a new fresh one, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, coming in. And I just burnt out of that model. So
so you actually
really,
interview them
oh,
in a way.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. I turn away a pretty good chunk of business just based on, if I wouldn't want to work there, or if I wouldn't want a family member or someone that I love to work there, they're not a good fit for me. And sometimes they have a hard time hearing that. And I've upset some executives in town, but they can always come back when they are ready to have that conversation. It's not forever. It's just a not now.
Right.
Because again, I have job seekers come to me that are very high quality. That's my secret sauce, and they trust me to put them in an environment that's going to care about them as a whole person. So first is just the discovery meeting, and then figuring out what problems do they have. Is it solely a recruitment need, or do they need a full review of their HR processes and procedures? And then we kind of just start with fire and then go to smoke, and then kind of move down the triage from there. So oftentimes I'm brought on an ongoing basis. Most of my clients do not have an HR director. They at best may have an office manager that plays HR, or an owner that does the new hire paperwork and trains the new people coming in, but they don't have processes and procedures, and it's not streamlined. So we'll not only teach them how to do that, but also support them in implementing and creating those processes.
So you can basically go in and kind of revamp their whole HR department and
or
you
be
can,
their HR department that they couldn't
right.
afford otherwise, because they're so small. They don't need 40 hours a week. They need to know that they're not overpaying for their payroll services. They need to make sure their workers' comp is in place and correct. They need that employee handbook. They need to know what questions they can and cannot ask during the interview. Like, golly, even with the best intention, just making conversations that get to know each other. You can't ask like, oh, so, oh, your name is very interesting. Where is that from? Oh, is that your married name or your maiden name? Like, protected classes.
There's where I would
So
fail.
yeah. We're just, and it's usually quite innocent, but that doesn't protect them from liability. And let me tell you what, the Department of Labor is on fire right now. They are walking plazas, doling out fines like crazy. They have really
Wow.
beefed up with this administration. And I am getting more and more clients coming to me because they've misclassified employees, they've been fined, they've, this, that, and the other. Just yesterday, I had someone come to me and apply and say, oh yeah, I can work for you. Just send me the W-9. And I'm like, oh, W-9, that's, this is an employee situation, not a contractor role. Oh, well, I really prefer that. We'll come to find out she's not legally allowed to work in the US. And so she's opened up an LLC. She provides her W-9 and then her services. And you can actually get jail time for that, for one, employing someone who's not authorized to work in the United States and working around the I-9 system. And two, it can be perceived as workers' comp fraud, and a business owner can be arrested and go to prison for workers' comp fraud. I've actually prosecuted on the basis of that through my staffing company. The guy got 7 years. It's not a joke. It's not a
Wow.
fine from somebody. You can actually go to prison for this stuff. So
Now, how do you handle the legal stuff? Do you have like a lawyer that you're partnered with?
I
The
have several lawyers that I'm
Okay.
partnered with, depending on the problem. And I've got the small mom and pop homegrown attorney, like the woman that you mentioned is probably a solopreneur or maybe has a paralegal, all the way up to some bigger, heavier hitters that take care of some of the more complex issues.
And so if somebody is, working with you and, 6 months, something happens or whatever, so they just contact you and then you work on getting them the attorney help that they need,
Yeah,
or
I can do introductions on their behalf. I don't get paid for that or anything, but I'm very careful to know when best practices end and legal liability begin. I never want to overstep my professionalism and try to be an attorney myself. So that's why I have a fun little bucket of different folks to choose from, because the way you get along with one may not be the way that you get along with another.
right.
But I have good relationships with them. I know that they're ethical attorneys, because let me tell you, they're not all looking out for your best interest, which they're supposed to, but that's not
Yeah.
always the case.
But you're like a directory of resources for
Yes,
anything that they need. So
absolutely,
you don't necessarily handle it all, but you can get them into the right.
absolutely.
Yeah. That's kind
I
of the
call it my
way.
social capital.
Yeah, and it's I like how you say not everyone will mesh, because I'm kind of the same thing. I know painters, electricians, plumbers. I know everything about the house. Like if you need
Right,
something, I have somebody or multiple
right.
people, but I always try to send two or three because like you
Yep,
said, you might know this, you are not going to get along because sometimes electricians and plumbers and
personality.
some of them
Yeah.
don't have all the best personality traits, and so you have to kind of coordinate that. So it's like, here's three, you go pick.
You choose. Yep.
That's Yep,
Yeah,
that's
they're all qualified, they're all licensed, they're all insured, but it's a good pool to start with. It's better than a Google search and not knowing what you're getting.
And when would you think is a good time, like someone, let's say, has a business, when they reach like X amount of employees, or when's usually a good time to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I should kind of look into setting up some type of an HR thing.
And when you hire your first employee, you should look at that. At least talk to somebody and be like, okay, this is what their employee file looks like. This is where the federal posters are posted. Just kind of have a quick conversation that's not expensive. You can just have a quick assessment. But just get exposed to what you don't know, because oftentimes it's just pure ignorance. They're an amazing painter and they've painted for 20 years, new construction or repaints or something like that. One day they strike out on their own and and they do good because they're great at their trade, right? And then they hire so and so, but they're paying them cash because they don't know how the payroll works, or they think they can't afford workers' comp, and it can just get to be a sticky widget. So just doing an analysis on that first one, and then as things come through, you'll know, your spidey senses will know that this isn't working, this is exhausting me, I don't know the answer to this question. If you're calling like your payroll providers, free HR 1-800 number, and getting someone somewhere that doesn't know who you are, understand your business, or anything like that, that can be helpful for simple matters, but oftentimes more complex matters,
Mm-hmm.
you should probably talk to someone who really has their hands on the situation and knows the key players involved.
Now, do you handle like payroll stuff too, or what
Mm-hmm.
kind of services, like what's everything you do and what stuff you don't do?
I do a lot. Things that I don't do, that I shy away from, is investigation type stuff, even though I do some of that, like sexual harassment investigations on behalf of a corporation, because especially if they're a high level executive, I kind of take that on a case by case basis. There's a lot of liability involved in that, and then I can get sued for giving bad advice and things. So I have a tendency to
Ah, yeah.
backpedal on that just a smidge. But we do provide payroll services, workers' comp guidance, best practices around hiring, best practices around termination. 90 something percent of employment related lawsuits come post termination. So it's not the old Donald Trump, you're fired, get out of my office. You really want to love them well, and get them out the door and go, oh, well, that didn't work out, but oh shucks, and not be mad about it, because that liability comes when they start talking to their friends, and if you should call an attorney, that's not right what they did to you. I'm more of a have a beautiful package prepared, a letter of recommendation, nice little severance package, a hug on the way out, and hopefully we part civilly.
Now, I know you said you do like keynote engagements. So
I
is
do.
this like training that you offer, maybe for a business who maybe doesn't know if they're at that level where they need it or not, or they just kind
Mhm.
of want some information? Is this the kind of things that you teach in your keynotes?
Yeah, absolutely. We speak on leadership. We speak on best hiring practices. I can speak on, best practices around those terminations, change management, SOPs, and things like that. Just a really wide variety. And oftentimes it's going to be the same stuff that your HR, or you're already telling your people. But I don't know if you have kids, but you can tell your kids the same thing over and over again, but if their aunt tells them, all of a sudden it's just the best advice that they have ever received. So sometimes just having that outside person kind of come in and love on their people in a way. And also it shows that you're investing in them. It's not you just, hey, do this, do that, or you'd be a lot happier here if you just da 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 da. Well, we can talk about workplace balance, and how to create a positive culture, and how to have difficult, uncomfortable conversations and not be offended by them. I think that's one of my most popular things, is really those conflict management, hard conversations, because at the end of the day, it's healthy to have. The workplace has such an amazing place in our society, because it puts us in touch, in community with people that we wouldn't choose ourselves,
Yeah.
and it creates an opportunity for growth and understanding and diversity that we wouldn't get maybe inside of our family, or with the friend group that we choose to put ourselves in, and things like that. And it is good to be exposed to those different ways of thinking. Doesn't mean that we have to align, but we have to have respectful conversations around those differences.
And you spend a lot of time with the people that you work with. I mean, I'm sure you've heard
Absolutely.
the phrase work wife, or, work husband,
Yeah.
in retail, because you spend so much time with these people, especially like, when I was working retail, there was times where I probably spent more time with them than I did with my wife, because
eight
you
to
only
ten
see
hours
them
a
for a couple
day
hours.
awake. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I only get about 3 or 4 that are worth anything in the evenings, and then weekends are of course full of responsibilities. It's not all fun on the weekends. You're kind of doing catch up and stuff. So So absolutely, just to at least at a minimum have mutual respect for each other, and maybe an understanding for what they do. You don't have to know how to be an accountant to understand how vital the accounting is to the health and growth of the business. And
And
that
when
we all kind of have to work together, and we have our piece, our vertical, and the things that we need to do to make each other's jobs, a pleasant at the at the least.
as you
It
could
doesn't
be for
have to
40
be
hours a week.
hard, right?
Yeah. Well, and when you come in too, like you can handle those tough conversations because you're unbiased.
Right.
Like
I'm
if
not a dog
you're
in the fight. I can't
right.
get fired. I can tell leadership that they're doing things poorly. I can speak to and empathize with the production staff, or the guys in the field, or the gals in the back office, and be that buffer, especially for small businesses.
Hmm.
There is no buffer, and often it's very intimate, and decisions are based too often based on relationships and not based on strategy or policy or things like that. And then they're like, well, why is Chuck getting favoritism? Or they have nepotism in the company, and so decisions are based around that. So having an HR consultant in the company, even on that part-time basis, can kind of create that divide, keep that transparency, keep the professionalism, have a relationship, but still make decisions based on the best interest of the company and not necessarily individuals.
Yeah. And then it's not, like it's not, oh, well, here's the manager heckling me again, when the
Yeah,
company's just trying to make a change where you're just saying, hey, maybe this would be a more efficient way to do this. And then people are, no one thinks they're getting blamed. They just think, oh,
right.
okay, yeah, that kind of all makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Our cancel culture in our society is just ridiculous. People have just become too dispensable. Yeah, and that's on the candidate side and the employer side. I mean, the ghosting phenomenon is just, it's it's bizarre to me that we can just have a relationship, no matter how small or in its infancy that it may be. Maybe we just had a phone conversation and we want to get together and meet for an interview, and then you just disappear. I've literally had people die on the way to interviews in car accidents. So when you don't show up, and I thought we made a connection on the phone, I'm genuinely, honestly worried about you. Just shoot me the text and say, you know what, never mind.
yeah.
That's fine as well. There's no reason on earth that you cannot send just the shortest, most brief communication that you've changed your mind or changed direction. Not that big of a deal. It's just business, not personal.
Yeah. But they're probably like, well, if I don't say anything, yeah, that just doesn't sit right. But man, dying on the
They
way to an
don't know
interview.
how to have the difficult conversation. They don't even know the words to say, I'm sorry, I changed my mind.
Yeah. Has the HR field changed a lot in the last 20 years, or is it still kind of the same? I hate my job. I want more money. He got a raise, I didn't. Is it still the same bickering, or is it kind
Yeah,
of
I had a friend
evolved?
call me the other day. He found out what a coworker was making that was significantly younger than him. He's like, "What do I do?" I was like, "You need to read Matthew's 20 is what you need to do." And then call me back and we'll have a conversation. Has HR changed? Absolutely. HR has changed vastly. Just with social media, the influence that social media has had on business, how we market, how we engage, how we interact with potential employers and current employers has changed HR tremendously. And then we have these new generations that are coming into the workforce. Gen Z is here. They are, filling out their I-9s and they're getting started. And Gen Z is an amazing generation that is going to have a huge impact on business and culture, and this new idea of the gig economy as well. The thought of, I'm going to do my 30 years, I'll get my pension, and I'll retire in my 50s is long dead. The loyalty on both sides is gone, and only you are responsible for the skill sets that you acquire and how you utilize those. So there's been tremendous changes in HR in the last 20 years. There's been tremendous changes in HR in the last 2 years. I mean, look at what the pandemic and vaccination requirements did to the world of HR. I mean, we were living in the wild west of craziness with these mandates, and how the federal government said you must close your doors as a privately held business and not have customers, but we'll pay you for this or we'll pay you for that. It was just really strange.
Yeah, I think retirement packages should also include like an application to be a Walmart greeter, because once you retire, then now you start your second career, or whatever your pre-retirement career. Because you're right,
Right.
it's not 30 years. It's a lot of times not going to be enough. And with this whole thing that's happened, I mean, the government was just pulling out so much money, just giving it to people, and people weren't wanting to work. I
No.
know I know for there was tons of people. It's like I can make more sitting on my couch. And what I thought was a better there was two issues I had with the government just sending out all this money. Was one, there was no limits on what you could spend it on. Like if you want to send out money, we already have a basically a food stamp type program. So if we
Hmm.
want to send out money, why can't we mimic something like that that says you can use it for this, 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 and this? You cannot use it on trips to Vegas, Louis Vuitton bags, and beer. Like
Right.
it was meant to help people. What I also thought was, why we're giving this money to people, but there was other ways, like why not say, hey, no sales tax on the business, or other ways that would say encourage people to go support the businesses, and then the businesses would have less to pay in tax. And but you have some type of control on where this money was, versus just
Mhm.
sending out all these checks and say, like it was monopoly, everyone hit free parking, and next thing you know, we're all bankrupt. Like
Right.
this is exactly what's.
Or just send it to the people that need it. I mean, I did fine through the pandemic. My husband and I are both essential. We never skipped a beat. My business boomed during it because no business knew what the heck was going on with the alphabet soup, the PPP, the ERTC, the this, that, and the other. They didn't know what was happening. I didn't need that money. The money's still sitting in my account.
Yeah, I
So
got a
how about
check.
just send it to people who need it,
Yeah.
and incentivize people to get reemployed. I can't tell you, hundreds of people in the initial parts of the pandemic said, I'm not returning to work because, like you said, I make more money sitting at home. And so we incentivize them to do nothing, which just isn't healthy as a society.
Well, and I think that's a big reason why we're delayed on so many things, why we can't find products, we can't, manufacturing is taking forever. Everything. Like I'm trying to put rocks in my landscaping that I just put in, and they can't get the rock.
Right.
And, and so it's not just computers and things, but when you pay people to sit on the couch, well, then manufacturing is going to stop, and that's
Hmm.
going to snowball into so many different things. And we could go on probably a whole
Yeah.
tangent
Don't get me
tangent
started.
yeah, tangent on that. So let's go to something more exciting. You rappelled down the Hyatt Regency. I
I
have to
did.
know about this, and that's not an attraction. I don't believe, right?
No, no, that is a hotel. It's the old Peabody on I Drive. A lot of locals know it as the Peabody Hotel. It just was sold a number of years ago, and it was for a nonprofit called Shatterproof. It was an addiction stigma awareness type of campaign, and I didn't want to run another 5K or do another this a walk or whatever. I was like, but this sounded really cool, and for me, having lost my mom to addiction in an overdose in 2005, before we knew what opioids were and the devil that they are known to be now. Yeah, it was funny to me, when I would share, somebody would mention, I was, oh, my mom passed when she was 44, and they would, oh, really? What happened? Car accident, cancer, what was it? Kind of thing. Well, she died of an overdose, and they go, oh, well, yeah, do those drugs, man, and you pay to play, kind of thing. And so there was this stigma around it, like her death was any less tragic or anything. And so I was Central Florida's largest fundraiser for that event. I raised over $5,000. I was scared out of my wits, just as I believe my mom was scared out of her wits to be sober. All the feelings and emotions and coping mechanisms she didn't have, to deal with. And so I repelled down in honor of her to bring about the ability to have the conversation, to get rid of the shame that I had, coming from that kind of childhood and upbringing and whatnot. And it was a really good experience. I'll never do it again.
I was gonna
it was
say,
it was frightening. I don't like heights. I don't even like being on ladders. The people around me that knew me most thought that I just lost my marbles. But it was an amazing experience. I got a GoPro footage of it. Evidently, I do cuss like a sailor when I'm frightened, so we had to like play music over it because I'm just
yeah, it was not
all the way
HR
down.
friendly.
No,
Yeah, I'm,
Lord
I'm not a
forgive
heights
me. It's
person
terrible.
either. I couldn't even
Yeah.
imagine doing that.
Yeah.
I jumped off a cave into the water that was maybe about, I don't even know. I was young. It was like a teen trip or something. And we
Okay.
jumped off this cave. And all I remember is I hit that water and I went so far down and I was just
Ooh.
swimming and swimming, but you can't see it because it's like a stream or a lake or whatever. So you
Yeah.
don't really know like how far. It's not like a pool, where
Hmm.
so
Where
I'm
the end
swimming,
is.
and everyone said my eyeballs look like softballs when I was going down the
Oh,
thing.
I'm
And
sure.
yeah, I'm not a heights person, or I don't even know if I could rappel down a
I don't
building.
like enclosures either. I don't like to be too deep under the water. We have lots of springs and aquifers around here, and I've swam down in those, and oh, I'd rather not.
You'd rather be up top on the boat fishing, right?
Yes, yes, all day.
What do you like to fish for?
Inshore salt is my primary target. I do get a little seasick out on the open water, so if I do that, we're typically going to troll for mahi or something. But really just inshore salt water, so trout, redfish, grouper, or not grouper, that's deep. Um, I love whiting. Beach fishing is I've gotten into that. We got a beach pole that's ginormous, and yeah, so good eating.
I had the very first episode of the podcast, a buddy of mine, he owns Brute Bites Fishing.
Oh,
And he does mainly bass, but he shows different lures, and he's sponsored by oh, he's gonna kill me because I forgot 6 cents.
okay.
Yeah, he's
Yep,
sponsored
that's
by
fish and
them.
bait. Yep,
Huh?
it's a bait thing. It's
Yeah.
sticky. Yeah.
So he's sponsored by them and Water World, I think.
Okay.
I think is the two sponsors.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so he was telling me all about fishing and where he goes, and he competes, and he
There
has a
you go.
YouTube channel, so he posts a lot of his stuff. He sets up like
Footage.
5, 6 cameras on his boat, and he'll go
Fun.
around and and so he can get all different angles and stuff. And he's always posting like awesome like little Instagram reels and stuff.
Yeah.
It's really, really cool. So
See, I wish
I've
I had a thing where I could like do videos like that. I don't think people would appreciate me like videotaping their interviews. They're nervous enough. So, but man, golly, I sure wish I could set up some videos in this office, because some people think that an interview is a confessional. It's just shocking what they'll tell you. It's like, oh, that wasn't the question, but thank you for
do
sharing.
you create YouTube content or
I
like
do.
for
I'm
questions?
just kind of getting started. I'm in my infancy still, and so I hope to start putting more of that stuff out, because it's hilarious. It's edifying. It's comforting. It's educational. These humans that we interact with every day are funny little creatures.
Well, I think you would do great answering HR questions, because I have to say, out of all the HR people, I this is probably the best conversation I've had with someone in HR, because it's like, a real person. It's not like, well, that's not policy, or
Right. Right.
So yeah, and you'd have a ton of content, because
Mhm.
people are always going to have these questions, and questions do the best on YouTube. I tell people all the time, if because they're going to search it over and over and over again,
Oh yeah.
and
Okay.
like, what do I do if this happens, or how do I set this up, or
Hmm.
so questions
Hmm.
always do the best, because you can, like, for
They want the
example,
answers.
if you created a video about I don't know, a job fair or something, and you're
Right.
like, hey, this big job fair is coming, blah, blah, blah. Well, that video is great for that week or up until the event, but no one's going to be searching that 2 years from now. But
Right.
if someone has a
How to
question on
prepare for a
how do
job
I
fair.
fire an employee,
Right.
they're going to be searching that this year, next year, the next year,
Yeah.
you know? So, um, and you do Krav Maga?
I
What got
did.
you
I
into
did
that?
until I severely dislocated my shoulder for the second time. And my husband had completely torn his ACL, his MCL. He was out of work for 6 months. So I quit at second degree brown belt. I tapped out. My daughter went on to be a second degree black belt. So she's a little ninja herself. But yeah, I did that for quite some time, a number of years, and really enjoyed the hand-on-hand combat and things like that. But I just the injury, it
Yeah.
stopped me at the end of the day.
I always wanted to get into just learning about it. I had another episode I had was a guy that was a firearms instructor. He was
Mm-hmm.
a former SWAT team member, police
Mm-hmm.
officer, things like that. He does a lot of the self-defense. I don't think he does more of the Krav Maga stuff, but more
Mm-hmm.
just using a
Hand-on-hand
weapon.
combat.
But I've always been interested in it. But it seemed like it was super popular, but now I haven't really seen that many places that still do it. I think it's more the MMA stuff. It's
Yeah.
kind of transitioned to that. And is
Well, it's
there,
intense, and there's no easy way to do it. It's a lethal form of self-defense, and that's its sole purpose is to eliminate the threat. So
yeah,
it's kind of hard to practice well without getting an injury. And so a lot of people that are just wanting exercise or some skills, they end up kind of shying away from it just due to its intensity and things like that. I mean, I could do regular karate or tai chi or something else, that's not as combative.
yeah, I gotta, um, like I said, I always want to get into it, but same thing. Like I don't even have a concealed weapons permit. It's like one of the things I've always wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a 4 year old and I don't know. I just never did. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, I haven't needed it in my first 40 years. Well, I need it in my next 40 years,
Yeah.
so you never
Don't do it
know.
unless you're comfortable with it. The worst thing you can ever do is do something that you're not an expert at or not comfortable with doing and whatnot. That's when accidents happen or
Yeah.
whatnot. So
So getting back into HR, what would be some tips you would have for businesses, like the common questions that you get, or just some bullet points, like if you had some advice and they got 1 minute with you, what would you tell them?
always be hiring, whether you have an open position or not, whether you're in the mall shopping or, the AC guys at your company giving you a service call. If you click with that person, if you like their style, if you like that, hire the personality and then train the skill set. And find a role that matches that person that can bring an ROI to your business. I think that would be just my number one piece of advice is just always be on the hunt for the next great employee and start a relationship with them. Doesn't mean you offer them a job on the spot, but find out who they are, connect with them in some kind of way, let them know that you respect them and appreciate their style. And you never know what comes of that. So, and then use social media to hire. Job boards are junk in this market, and they're really just absolutely worthless. My best candidates come from organic micro social media engagement.
So you would
That's my
just
secret sauce.
so you would just make a post and say, I'm looking for someone who has this type of skill set, and then people reach out to you, or how do you
That's
build
the
up
elementary
this?
way of doing it. I could talk for a whole hour on how to cultivate that pipeline, create the buzz, engage with the community using micro groups and things like that. So just showing up and being your authentic self and sharing your why and your vision on your company. People want to be a part of something that's more than just making money, and they want to change the world. At the end of the day, people want to have influence and impact.
And so you were saying always be hiring. So what happens if you come across someone, they're super great, you really like their style, but all your positions are filled and you have good people now,
Mhm.
how would a business owner handle that? Do they, because they obviously, if this person's so great, they're probably not going to be unemployed for that much longer. Someone else is going to pick them up.
Right.
So do you let someone who's maybe a C plus B minus employee go for the hopes? It almost reminds me of like the NFL, where do you get rid of one player to bring in someone who might be better?
Yeah.
So how would you
Yeah.
tell a
The devil
business
you know
owner?
versus the devil you don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think I would ever do a termination based on that philosophy. But I would just again start the relationship, start the conversation, let them know that there's any interest, and then ask them, where would you see yourself in my company, and how do you think that I could afford someone like you? And you'd be amazed at what they'll come up with, because so many of our roles can do one of two things. They reduce our current liabilities or costs. That's one role. Or second, they're able to generate revenue for our company, and just simply ask them, you seem amazing. Like, where do you see yourself, fitting in? My first hire was my most amazing hire, and she doesn't generate any revenue, but she saves me time that allows me to be more of a rainmaker in my business. And we've tripled since I hired her, and she more than covers her salary that I could not afford that the day that she started with my company. I didn't have the money to hire her, but I found the money, I got it up, and then we were able, and we're much more profitable now. I'm happier now because I'm not doing things that aren't in my wheelhouse or my level of expertise. I don't want anything to do with an Excel spreadsheet. Like I shared in the beginning, I don't love resume rewrites. I have her do a lot of the heavy lifting on those things. Just taking all the admin stuff off and just allowing me to operate at a high level was the best hire that I ever made that I could not afford.
Yeah, sometimes you got to put the right people in the right spot and then also free up your time. If you're busy, doing the busy work, you can't grow your own.
Right.
And is that a big hurdle that business owners have? They're like, "Oh, I don't have the
Yeah.
money," or "I just want to handle everything," or
Yeah.
maybe I don't trust them to do it as good as me. Are those what are the big hurdles that people?
Yeah. Yeah. The sense of control, like you said, like only I can do it as good as I can do it, which is, you should never hire another you, especially very early in the organization. You should be hiring the yin to your yang. So how I decided on Lori, was I found her to have all the skill sets that I did not have. And she loves all the things that she does, and I loathed them. And she would just be beside herself if I made her take stage or close a contract or something like that. So you're not duplicating yourself. You're going to hire someone for things that you already kind of think at. And then two, you have to spend the money before you make the money. And my original thought on how she would generate money did not end up working out. But the plan B was that I would outsell her cost to me, and I'm able to live a happier life because I'm really only doing what I'm best at every day, which
Mhm.
creates an amazing ROI. And we've been able to scale the business that way. And now, if you look at my Meet the Team section, I'm less than 2 years old, and I'm super blessed with a rock star of a team around me that all has gifts that I just do not have.
And when someone, they get starts working with you, they get that whole team of resources.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Often, and that's the shift that I've had to make, right? As a small business owner, I went from a solopreneur just hoping to feed my family, right? To
Mhm.
having an entire team around me that allows me to operate as a visionary and an HR expert. And so it really keeps me in my lane. And then they are able to produce and provide all of the services that we're able to put forth to a company. So they're not just hiring me, they're
You're getting the whole
hiring,
team
my entire office.
and all the resources that you have.
Yeah. And
And
connections. Because if I can't solve your problem, I guarantee you I can bring someone to the door who can.
and have you had someone who's been really hesitant on using you and they decided, okay, I'll pull the trigger, and then like a year later they're like, oh my God, thank you. You were the best thing. You get that a
Yeah.
lot, I'm sure. Yeah.
So many times. So many times. And it's just a blessing to be able to have that hindsight. I had it when I was in the staffing industry, and those long-term clients that you would watch grow and develop and move, but now that I'm coming into my second year here, it's the same thing. They didn't know what they didn't know. And then when you start fixing the problems and plugging the holes, and they see the business start to develop slowly, they're like, man, I can't imagine going back to where I was. I was so ignorant on how good things could be, or how
Mhm.
my schedule could be, or what my revenues could be. And and so it's super fun to be instrumental, because really we're changing lives generationally. We're not just helping that business, we're helping that business owner be better at what they do, which allows them to go home and be a better wife or spouse to their significant other, to be a better parent to their children, to be a better friend to their friend group, when they're not stressed out and operating out of fear. And so it really has a generational effect throughout the community and in our society, when things in business go well and are done right and in a healthy way, that push a vision forward and solve problems. We're all just selling solutions, right? At
Yeah.
the end of the day, that's what you do. That's what I do. That's what the mental health industry does. That's what painters do. We're all just solving a problem. I can do it bigger, better, faster than you can, because this is what I do. You
Yeah.
don't have to hire a CPA to do your taxes. You don't have to hire an attorney to represent you in court. Should you? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because it'll cost you a lot with the time that you pour into it, trying to teach yourself how to do it, and then with the lackluster results that you're likely to get. It costs you way much more than having a professional just take care of it for you.
And I just thought about this during the podcast. You're really like an insurance almost. Like, because a lot
Absolutely.
of people, they don't want to pay car insurance. They're like, oh, it's $200 a month. I'm a safe driver. I haven't had an accident in 10 years. Why am I paying for car insurance? But then that one time that you have that accident,
To bankrupt you.
first person you call is the car insurance, like, and
Mhm.
it's kind of the same situation with you. It's like, I may not have an emergency fire going on right now in my business, but I want that peace of mind. And 6 months down, the poop hits the fan. So
Yeah.
I gotta be HR friendly. Poop hits the fan. And you got someone in your corner that you can call, and you
Yeah.
already have that plan set up. So
Mhm.
that's yeah. I didn't really think of it. I was like, oh, okay. She finds people who are looking for a job, and she helps companies hire people. Like, that's what I thought. And
Mhm.
just throughout this, I'm learning so much, and maybe some HR people are cool. I don't know.
There's a few of us.
So do you have any events coming up? I know recently you had an event, but we weren't able to get you on in time. How did that event go? Was it good? You had a job fair or something, right?
Yeah, the job fairs, man, I just love job fairs because it gets people away from their computer screens, in person, in front of you. You can see the product at the end of the day, how they communicate, how they move, all of that. Job fairs are just absolutely amazing. And they've come so far in the last few years. They used to be very labor based,
Hmm.
that's where what kind of showed up to those job fairs. That's the kind of employers. We got high level professionals, accountants, marketing, new grads, old dogs. Like, we got those job fairs really have it all. And so we do provide job fair services in case you don't want to go and set up the table and hand out the tchotchkes and meet the people and do the thing. We'll actually go on your behalf, collect all the resumes for you, and bring them back to you. That's something that we do
Wow.
every single quarter. Typically for half the price of what the venue charges to walk in the door, to send your people, to set up your stuff, to work the day, to come back and to do all the follow up. And we don't charge anything extra for anybody that you hire from the stack of resumes that we collect on your behalf. So that's one of our services and events that we always have around the corner, because we do those more than quarterly, either at the Amway Arena or the Central Florida Fairgrounds. And I got to tell you, we're like carnival barkers out there. We're like, come on, everybody. So funny. The other tables are sitting there, the hourly employees, the HR people that the company has sent, and they're just on their phone because they're paid to be there. And if you want to go up to them and interrupt whatever they got going on right here, you can maybe get some of their attention. But we're out there collecting them, talking to them, writing notes on them, and getting those great
You
qualified
got that
candidates
fishing
back to
pole
you.
out and you're just, hey, come here,
Oh
come
yeah,
here.
I love it. I love it. It
I
is
got a
go
good one.
day on
I've
those
actually
days.
never been to a job fair in my entire life.
Really, you should just
Never.
go and walk one and just kind of see what it's about. There's great decision makers in the room. There's great business in the room. There's amazing job seekers in the room. Yeah, I actually had my last internal hire I met at a job fair that was just held at Seminole State College. It was a rather small one, and pulled her out of Orlando Health. She had been there as a recruiter for 21 years. So she's got amazing industry knowledge. She hired for them from everywhere from janitors to doctors. Like, she's a superstar. So I love job fairs.
Yeah, I either knew someone that worked there that kind of gave me the foot in the door, or
Right.
I just applied. I
Mhm.
remember when I was looking, I did try like the big job fair websites, and that was all junk. It didn't work out for me at
Yeah.
all. But yeah, I've never been to a job fair, and I always see them posted and stuff, but I normally have a job, and then I'm always wondering like, well, what if my company's there and they see me at a job
I've seen
fair,
it happen.
like, oh,
I had
I'm
one
just
come
here
up
for
to
the
me the other day.
popcorn.
She's like, "Oh my gosh, my employer's here. I didn't know they were going to be here." I'm like, "Well, you should have looked at the list, because there is a list.
Yeah,
And
that's
I've seen like people on TV, because the news crews will show up to those events, and then there
oh
you
my
are in the
gosh.
background on your lunch hour. Like, and that's another reason why it's so great to work with a headhunter, to work with a recruitment firm, is you don't have to blast your resume out there on the World Wide Web. They can just quietly and confidentially keep an eye out for something that you're a match for.
And people can also contact you and say, hey, I'm looking for something, and this is kind of what my resume is, and you'll help
Yep.
them. And what type of people are you looking for? Like, is there any requirements? Like, do they
Happy
have to have
human.
some work history, or
We really work with everything. Right now, I'm working with an amazing florist here in Central Florida, one of the largest florists in bloom. They have almost 100 employees, and so a lot of their positions are entry level. They bring in flowers from all over the world, and they come in. You got to take off the thorns and clean up the leaves and get them put in their little pot, and sell it out the front door, and drag them in the back door, and that kind of thing, stuff like that, all the way up to C-level executive positions that are paying in the multiples of hundreds of thousands of dollars. So really, anyone who is a job seeker who's not comfortable using a job board or blasting it out there, they can privately and confidentially send us a resume. We'll keep it in a file under what skill set that they have. Then one day I might just give them a call out of the blue. We also do, I don't talk about it a lot, we do serve job seekers through our resume writing and reviewing, and even career coaching, where we can assist them in the job seeking process and walk that path along with them. It's not a huge part of our business, just because unemployed people pay this much and
yeah,
companies pay this much.
sure.
But it's a beautiful place to be, especially for men. They have so much of their value is wrapped up in being a very good provider to their families, and so when they find themselves in an extended period of time of unemployment, it can be kind of traumatic for them. So kind of walking that path with them, edifying them. They don't want to talk to their wife about their weaknesses or their concerns, and they don't want advice from there, and they don't want to talk to their buddies and stuff. So just kind of having that private one-on-one consulting, coaching type professional that's in your corner, rooting you on before the interview, and then kind of debriefing you after the interview, assisting you in the negotiation process. We do all of that.
That's one of the questions I always hated in the interview process, where it was the one where it's like, what's your biggest flaw, or what's your biggest negative trait, or something like that. And it's like,
Yeah.
I'm
Easy
trying to
peasy,
sell how
baby.
good I am, not,
Yeah. The big thing is typically the answer to that question is that you have the emotional intelligence to know that you're not perfect. Because someone who goes, "Oh gosh, what am I bad at?" Like,
yeah,
really? You don't know?
right.
Come on.
A
Or
flaw
the
in me.
right. Yeah. No, we just want to know that you, one, know that you have them, and two, that you are actively working on it. That's really the main basis behind the question. But then the other thing is oh, to know the answer to the question, and to be able to be vulnerable enough to kind of have that conversation is just really important. And then never answer as a virtue. It's just, ugh, it's the most disgusting thing. Oh, I'm a perfectionist. I work too hard all the time. Or, I'm overly dedicated to my employer. Sometimes I just give too much. Like, come on, it's rehearsed. We've heard it a million times. We don't answer the weakness question with a virtue.
Now, see, I have a spin on that. I would usually say I'm a perfectionist, but what I would say is I would overanalyze things. And
Hmm.
so I would spend too much time thinking about every single
Right.
avenue that's affecting this. And maybe I don't get it done as quickly because
Yeah.
I'm spending so much time thinking about how to do it correctly and what other outside factors may change it. So,
Sometimes action is needed more than perfection, especially
yeah.
in small business. We're not brain surgeons or scientists, controlling the world. It's just HR. If we make a mistake, it's not going to have huge repercussions. Typically, if you're working ethically, honorably, morally, it's just going to be a snafu at best. You might embarrass yourself with a reply all or something, but
Yeah.
it's 9 times out of 10, you're thinking about it more than the other person is.
And so if people go to your website, Simply the Best,
Yep.
what type of information can they find? Is there
All of our
newsletters or
services, all of our pricing, stories about our company, about our vision, things like that. I'm really very transparent on how we operate. Some people have expressed to me concern that I'm overly transparent, that people are going to steal my secret sauce. I'm not really worried about that. Nobody will ever be me, just as vice versa. So really, it has all of our services, our pricing, our values, our culture, our team. We even have resources listed on there to assist people that are free that we just give away. So if you're a business owner looking to hire or have HR concerns, you can go there for free resources. All of our social media handles are at Simply the Best. I do love the microphone. I do love the camera. I think they put some catnip in it. So I do a fair amount of just sharing of my knowledge and experience, and in a very transparent, funny, authentic kind of way.
and I don't know if you have any companies that maybe are looking for people that you may want to shout out. I know you said something about a florist or something.
Yeah.
If you feel comfortable, if you want to take in, for people that will watch the podcast fairly soon. I mean, if you're watching this 2 years from now, they may have filled it
Right.
already. But I mean, if there's any person you want to shout out or, um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
take it away.
absolutely. In Bloom Florist, Sally is an absolutely amazing owner. She has made something beautiful and powerful in her floral company. She has locations both in Orlando and Lake Mary. Brownies, Septic and Plumbing, almost 70 years old, right here in Central Florida. They're a well respected plumbing and septic company looking for trade people to work in a wide variety of ways, along with accounting. Entrusted, which is a local disaster restoration company, is opening up a division right here in Central Florida. And they're an amazing Christian owned company that is going to explode here in the Central Florida market. They're looking for mitigation technicians, sales, and marketing. I've got healthcare providers, PCAN, Primary Care Access Network, that is a nonprofit that helps those who are uninsured and have medical issues and need ongoing medical treatment. They provide those services for free. So they're looking for a program director. Um, Gosh, just so many great companies that are faithfully and beautifully serving our community, that are good bosses, good people, and understand that you're a whole person, that want to invest in you and make you the best version of yourself. We're all just walking each other home. We don't want you to be miserable, between 8 and 5. So a full list. Unlike staffing companies, I'm very transparent on who my clients are. So you'll see on my website, it says Brownies Plumbing, Entrusted Restoration, In bloom florist. We're open doors. They've already paid me. I've paid on that flat monthly fee. If you want to steal my business, good luck. We've got great relationships with our clients. So we always want you to know who we're sending you to, and to be comfortable with them. Check out the reviews, Google them, see what they're about. We want to make those introductions quickly, swiftly, and get them filled so everybody benefits.
So if you're watching this podcast and you're tired of getting that check for sitting on the couch, or you're looking for something new, there was just a great list. And like she mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, she's interviewed these people. So she knows that, hey, this is going to be a great work environment, not, hey, this is going to be another job. You're going to, you're going to hate the environment or whatever,
Let me just share with you one story that I think is absolutely hilarious. I had submitted a woman for consideration for a role, and the business owner came back and he had looked at her LinkedIn profile and said, oh no, she does not have the look that we're going for. She kind of, her makeup is so thick. Honestly, I hate to use this term, but she looks like a streetwalker. And I laughed. Her makeup was a little bit heavier than I wear, but I've always been more on the neutral side and whatnot. But he did not want to meet with her. She was fully qualified, but he felt that she looked like the streetwalker. So I looked at the photo again and I was like, you know what? This is a professionally taken photo. It looks like she had her hair and makeup done that way. I too have looked like a streetwalker when professionals have tried to pretty up this ugly mug of mine. And I said, how about this? Just meet her. And if she shows up looking like a hot mess, well, we won't consider her. She showed up beautifully, professionally, and he hired her. She's still there to this day. We told her the story after the fact, the reason that she almost didn't get the job. And she was like, oh my God, I hated that photo, but I had already paid hair this much, makeup that much, the photographer this much. I just had to use it. So using someone to represent you, to represent your brand, if you feel like your resume is stopping you or you're not getting your full story across through the hiring process, using a headhunter or a recruitment service or consultant like myself is just a great ally for you as a job seeker. And he, as the business owner, learned that everything may not be as it seems. Sometimes it's
can't judge a book by its cover.
Absolutely. So having that middleman really helped both sides of that equation.
Well, that's awesome that, one, she got the job, and two, it changed his perspective. And, without having you, he probably still would have been on that, he probably would have got that from one of the big job sites and was like, nope. And everybody would have lost because she wouldn't have got the job. He wouldn't have changed his mind or knew that, that, hey, this might be a good opportunity. And who knows what the replacement would be. Maybe not as good, not as profitable, not as efficient. So yeah, it's a win-win. Well, thank you so much for being on. This has been a really great show. I didn't think I'd have this much fun with, talking about HR. I thought, it'd be, it was exciting. And so it's great to learn so much about you. And definitely if anybody, I know it may be a slim chance, but if somebody happens to watch this podcast and messages you and fills a spot in one of those companies, let me know, because that would be super cool. Because this podcast is all about connecting people. So hopefully, we can just connect the pieces and make something work. So thank you so much. Is there any last minute? Well, of course, we'll put all your socials and everything down there in the description. Which platforms are you usually most active on? Facebook or?
Facebook is my main. Instagram, I'm getting into. YouTube, I'm getting into. I just downloaded Twitter. I'm tweeting. Oh no, world watch out. I don't even know what to do with myself. But yeah, Facebook is really my main thing, but we are growing all of our channels.
Well, perfect. Well,
and I put something a little different on each one as well. So whatever your favorite platform is, just check us out, subscribe, follow. And I think you'll learn a lot, whether you're a leader or an employee. We all have influence in this world, and we all can get just a little bit better every single day.
And if you are a business owner and you're looking to get into social media, like training and stuff, we do a lot of business, what we call like we just started a couple weeks ago, but a business insider. We basically have Zoom sessions with other business owners, and each week is a different topic. And last week we actually talked about social media strategies and kind of what works, platforms that you can use, the paid versus the free marketing.
Yes.
So on our YouTube channel, you'll see, we just haven't came up with a name. It's a Zoom session, but
Okay.
we haven't came up with a catchy name. But on our channel, you can see we do little Zoom sessions with different business owners. So, I would say for you, if
Check it
you're,
out.
because you have so much, I would look up Hootsuite.
Okay. Yep. We have Hootsuite.
Yeah, Hootsuite's
Mhm.
really good. That's kind of what we talked about on our training
That's
a
what we
lot.
use.
But Hootsuite's really good. And check out an NFC business card. Do you know what that is?
Oh, is that the little thing where you can
Yeah.
transfer the thing? Yep, I'm familiar.
Yeah, so it looks like a credit card. You can get
Hmm.
them on Amazon. They're $10 or $9 for a 10 pack. And
Okay.
there's a free app you can download called NFC Tools, I think it is. And
Okay.
basically you put your links in there, and then whatever link you want that person to go to, all you do is you take essentially the credit card and you tap
Hmm.
their phone, and it immediately opens on their phone. So
Oh, wow.
it's great if you're out and you don't have a card. Like sometimes, like I'll leave the gym and I'll stop by Publix or something, and I don't have my real estate cards on me. So what I can do is, if somehow a real estate conversation comes up and they're like, "Oh, do you have a card?" No, but all I have to do is tap this card, because my phone has like a little, well, the
Right.
green, but it has a little, basically I can hold 4 cards in the back of my phone. And so I
Right.
just pull
Right.
that out and tap their phone, and it takes them right to my realtor page. So,
Oh,
and
okay.
they're super cheap. The app's free. It cost me $9 for 10 of them.
There
Um,
you go.
and it's kind of cool. People haven't seen it, and they really don't have a choice, because once you tap their phone, your website opens.
Right. They're
So,
in there.
so yeah, it's there. So, well, anyway, thank you so much for a great
Thank
show.
you.
And we will put all the links. Subscribe, share this video with your friends, help us grow so we can help more of our guests and grow their businesses, and we can all connect together and keep supporting the small business. Don't worry about those big guys. Support the small
Amen.
the
Shop
small
local.
businesses right here in Central Florida. So thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. All right.